The breaking point. She didn't know who she was anymore. The mirror showed a familiar face, but the light in her eyes had vanished. Her soul was tired, not from working, not from life, but from pretending. Pretending to be okay, pretending to be strong, pretending that the emptiness inside wasn't swallowing her whole. People around her kept moving, talking, planning, but no one really saw her. She was screaming internally while smiling outwardly, waving while drowning. The pressure to be fine, to stay strong, to keep achieving, it crushed her, and yet no one noticed. Not the friends, not the family, not even her. One night, when the world was silent and her thoughts were loud, she whispered something to herself. Enough, enough trying to prove something to everyone. Enough explaining, enough chasing, enough trying to survive in a world that only claps when you're loud. That night, she made a vow. She would rebuild her life, not with announcements, not with applause, but in silence. The noise that destroys. She used to believe that talking about her plans made them more real, that if she shared enough, posted enough, dreamed out loud enough, somehow the universe would respond faster. But it didn't. The more she spoke, the more things fell apart. Opportunities vanished. People gave opinions she never asked for. Some smiled to her face while secretly hoping she'd fail. The noise was deafening. Social media, expectations, the constant, "you should." Everyone had advice, but no one really listened. And in the chaos of outside voices, she lost the sound of her own. Validation became addictive. She'd post her goals not because they were sacred, but because she needed someone to say, "You can do it." But every like faded, every comment disappeared, and she was still stuck. One morning, after waking up drained from yet another restless night, she stared at her phone. Then she turned it off. Not just silent mode, off. She logged out, deleted the apps, and in that moment, for the first time in years, there was peace. No more noise, no more pressure, just space to finally hear her own voice again. Vanishing act, into silence. No goodbyes, no announcements. She simply vanished. One day, she was there, liking, posting, smiling. The next, nothing. People noticed. Some messaged. Most didn't. And that's when it hit her. She was more present in their feeds than in their hearts. It didn't hurt the way she thought it would. In fact, it felt free. While the world kept spinning, she paused. She deleted distractions. She distanced herself from empty conversations. She disconnected from people who only called when they needed something. For the first time, her world was quiet. And in that silence, she didn't crumble. She created tiny shifts, simple habits, a walk instead of scrolling, water instead of wine, a journal instead of a comment section. No one was watching. No one was clapping, but she was rising. In the absence of noise, something sacred began to grow. Clarity. The woman the world thought disappeared was finally starting to appear, to herself. The power of habits. She once thought change had to be dramatic. That transformation came with fireworks, big gestures, overnight success. But in the silence, she learned a different truth. Change is quiet, and it lives inside habits. She stopped writing down lofty goals like lose weight or be more productive. Instead, she wrote this: walk for 45 minutes, eat vegetables with every meal, read 10 pages before bed. Simple, unimpressive to most, but sacred to her. Each habit was a brick. Each brick was a step, and every step rebuilt the woman she lost along the way. No, she didn't wake up motivated every day. Some days were heavy. Some habits felt pointless, but she did them anyway. Because she wasn't chasing a goal anymore. She was becoming someone new. A woman who didn't need to prove anything. A woman who could trust herself. A woman who chose process over perfection. Every single time. And the more she showed up for herself, the less she needed anyone else to. What the world called small, she started to call power. Tiny wins, big shifts. At first, it felt like nothing was changing. No one was congratulating her. There were no trophies, no likes, no "wow, look at you." Just quiet mornings and quiet victories. But little by little, something inside her was shifting. She no longer needed her alarm. Her body woke up, ready. The morning walk became meditation. The book before bed replaced the anxiety-filled scrolling. The meals she cooked felt like rituals, not chores. Every action whispered, "You're doing it. Keep going." And though no one saw it, she saw it. She began to smile differently, stand differently, speak differently. She started making eye contact again, not with arrogance, but with peace. She wasn't there yet, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't lost. These weren't just habits, they were proof. Proof that she was capable, that discipline was more reliable than motivation, that showing up for herself, even in the smallest ways, was enough to start a revolution within. And so, day after day, she stacked one tiny win on top of another, until she started to feel unshakable. The mirror of identity. One morning, something changed. She looked in the mirror, really looked, and for the first time, she recognized the woman staring back, not because her face had changed, but because her energy had. She wasn't just acting like a new person, she was becoming one. She had stopped asking, "What do I want to achieve?" and started asking, "Who do I want to be?" That question changed everything. She no longer chased outcomes. She focused on alignment. What does a healthy woman do? What does a calm woman do? What does a powerful woman believe? What would that version of her do today? And slowly, she began to match her life to those answers. She created rituals that honored her mind, her body, her spirit. She protected her time like it was gold. She no longer filled her schedule with things that didn't reflect who she was becoming. Because now, she wasn't just healing from her past, she was stepping into her future. A version of herself that didn't just survive the silence, she was born from it. The isolation that heals alone, but not lonely. That's how she began to feel. At first, the silence was awkward. She was used to background noise, conversations, messages, updates, chaos. But now, there was just stillness. And in that stillness, she met herself. She cried sometimes. She journaled truths she had never said out loud. She sat with pain she'd spent years avoiding. But she also felt something she hadn't in a long time: peace. Without constant feedback from the outside world, she began to hear a new voice inside her, a quiet, steady whisper that said, "You're okay. Keep going. I'm proud of you." It wasn't the voice of her past. It wasn't the voice of others. It was her own. She started to love the solitude. It gave her space to think, to breathe, to reset, to dream without filters. She realized healing didn't happen in the spotlight. It happened in silence, in private victories, in the sacred, unseen moments of choosing herself again and again. And while the world thought she had disappeared, she was actually being rebuilt, stronger, wiser, softer, clearer. This isolation wasn't punishment, it was preparation, the resistance of comfort. She thought growth would feel good, but it didn't. It felt heavy, unnatural, uncomfortable. Every habit she built came with resistance. Every step forward pulled old fears to the surface. There were mornings she wanted to stay in bed, evenings when she questioned everything, moments when the old version of her whispered, "Come back, it's easier here." But she didn't, because she understood something most people don't. Discomfort is the price of transformation. She remembered the beginning of the year. While others picked words like peace, love, or success, she chose a different word: discomfort. Why? Because she finally realized what's familiar isn't always good, and what's hard isn't always wrong. When she started working out, her body hurt. When she said no to junk food, her cravings screamed. When she sat in silence, her mind panicked. But she pushed through, not because it was easy, but because she was tired of the easy things that led her nowhere. Every time she leaned into the discomfort, she discovered new strength, new resilience, new clarity. Growth wasn't glamorous. It was gritty, raw, honest, but it was real. And for the first time, she wasn't running from herself. She was running toward who she was meant to be. New circle, new frequency. As she evolved, something unexpected happened. People started fading, not because of fights, not because of drama, just the conversations that once excited her felt empty. The people who once felt like home now felt like noise. And it wasn't personal, it was energetic. She had changed her frequency, and not everyone was tuned in anymore. At first, she tried to hold on, to stay in rooms that felt familiar, to laugh at jokes that no longer resonated, to play roles she had outgrown. But it drained her, so she let go. She released the need to belong where she no longer fit. She stopped shrinking to be understood. She stopped explaining her silence, her growth, her peace. And as she created space, new people arrived. People who didn't compete, they celebrated. People who didn't gossip, they built. People who didn't question her growth, they mirrored it. This new circle didn't ask her to dim her light. They asked her to shine brighter. They didn't pull her back, they pushed her forward. And slowly, she realized, your environment is louder than your words. Your tribe shapes your trajectory. So she chose, with full intention, to walk only with those who saw her, not for who she was, but for who she was becoming. The comeback, but silent. She didn't return with noise, no grand announcement, no "look at me now," no dramatic reintroduction. She simply walked back into the world, different, and the world noticed. Not because she said anything, but because everything about her had changed. Her posture spoke louder. Her energy entered the room before she did. Her peace was magnetic, her silence powerful. People asked, "Where have you been?" She smiled and answered with her presence, not with words, but with results. She didn't chase attention anymore. She didn't seek applause. She didn't need validation, because now she was rooted, clear, confident, unshakable. She had learned the secret that most never discover. The loudest growth happens in the quietest seasons. The biggest victories are born when no one's watching. She was no longer the woman who begged to be seen. She was the woman who had seen herself, and that changed everything. The comeback. It wasn't a moment, it was a becoming. And it didn't need to be loud, because now, her life spoke for itself.